Yo, how's it going, guys? It's Richie and a Crown Caller here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We are back, and I hope you guys are having a good day. We have to talk about jewel mounts. Yeah, this should be fun because this has been a pretty hot topic because they did reveal a little bit of information on their latest KI live that they did. And this has been a long awaited feature for quite some time. That or like a mount transmog system, which obviously has been long overdue. But I wanted to talk about it and just share with you the information that we have so far. Now, do keep in mind, whenever it comes to these Wizard101 updates that, you know, are going to come out in the foreseeable future, just take everything with a grain of salt. Even though the developers are saying it, we just have no idea how this is going to be executed, as we have seen with all of these updates throughout the many years. Players might think that, you know, this could be great, but then KI will somehow make it somehow like really convoluted to the point where it's literally not what everybody thought of. So here is the info that I grabbed from Atmoplex that they mentioned on their KI live notes. But it says, now again, take it with a grain of salt. We don't know how this is going to launch, but Mount Jewels will allow you to take the stats from an already existing stat mount and transfer it to another mount. So restrictions, methods, and the cost are still to be determined, and that's all the information that I know of. I'm sure there's probably more information, but again, I'm just taking it with a grain of salt, and I'm kind of keeping my guard up a little bit because this year in particular has been very exhausting. These updates seem to be not what a lot of players have hoped for, and honestly, you know, there is a part of me that is somewhat excited, but there's also a part of me that is a little bit nervous. So basically, I guess what they're trying to say is that if you already have a mount that has stat talents, such as like the Mammoth mini mount, which I got from a viewer a long time ago, that gives you a 2% outgoing, I'm assuming that this would give you, I guess, a jewel, and maybe you can use that jewel like a 2% outgoing on other mounts. Now that's what I'm thinking would be great. However, I already know, like I said in the beginning of the video, that this could be such a convoluted process to the point where I probably won't use the feature at all, right? And I have some other questions here to kind of talk about all the other specifics that we don't know about. But is this going to cost crowns or gold to really put a jewel on any kind of mount or specific mounts? Of course, there will probably be a couple of restrictions. Again, it will be a very convoluted process. But is this something that is going to take crowns or gold? And believe me, I would love for it to cost gold or whatever it is, whether it's trying to unlock a certain type of socket, or you have to grind up the legendary socket wrenches, which I really hate doing, or just paying the crown fee. We don't know if this is going to be like a free accessible thing that, you know, players that already have stat mounts are going to be able to take advantage of, or if this is just going to be something where every person is just going to have to pay out of pocket with some sort of crown fee, which they did say that, you know, restrictions, methods, and the cost are still to be determined. So of course there might be a cost in doing this, which isn't great, but it is what it is. I mean, the Magic Mirror shop used to actually have a crown price to it, but then they had changed that a while back. But I'm really am curious to see what their direction is going on for that, because I would love for this to be like a free thing for all players, but I just know that's probably not, because whenever there's an update, there's always a chance to make a quick buck or a chance to irritate the community further. Basically rage bait the community as much as possible. And another question I had is if this will apply to stat bonus mounts, which is a really big one as well, because I'm sure everybody and their mother has a Stompy Bronto mount from the what was it, the Primeval Horde pack or something like that. I forgot what it was called, but I know everybody has a Stompy Bronto mount or whatever it's called, and they usually go for that because this is one of the last packs, or at least one of the last set of gear pieces where there's actually a pretty good like set bonus with it, but they kind of don't do it anymore. So it would be kind of cool to see like, oh hey, maybe you can put a jewel on a Stompy Bronto and maybe you can get like maybe 2% outgoing out of it, or like 2% damage out of it, or like 3% damage out of it, or whatever, alongside your, you know, other set bonuses for having, you know, the pet or whatever other combo you want to do. But again, there are going to be restrictions when it comes to putting jewels on mounts. So again, we're just going to have to wait and see what it looks like in Test Realm and see how they want to execute it in Live Realm, because we have seen them execute a lot of updates, then they'll go back, change some things, and then a couple of years later, they're going to quote-unquote update it or quote-unquote rework it, and then, you know, it just angers people even more. So again, these are the specifics that a lot of players want to know just to see what goes on there. And another question I had is, will the jewel mount function only work for specific mount stats? You know, the Mammoth Mini, 2% outgoing, like I said, Battle Narwhal, 2% damage. Or will this be across like all kind of jewel sockets? So like, could I potentially put a square jewel on a mount? I doubt that, but that would be really insane if that was the case. But again, these are just some specifics that we can think of. Some mounts, I would imagine, would just have the regular standard like jewel socket, or maybe they'll make a new type of jewel socket for those, you know, stat mounts and whatnot. But I am curious to see like what the framework is for all the other mounts. And lastly but not least, that I hope that this does happen, but I hope it's kind of like the engraving system for my Assassin's Creed Shadows game. I don't know if anybody plays the RPG Assassin's Creed game. Probably not, because you guys love Wizard101. But in that game, if I have a certain engravement, I can actually use that engravement for all of my other gear that it's associated with. So, you know, for this case, if I got an engravement in the game, for Wizard101's case, it would be a jewel from, you know, a stat mount that I already have. Maybe I would get that jewel, you know, it would be permanent. So maybe I could get like a 2% permanent mount jewel that can't be shattered and can be traded in the shared bank, right? So I can use it for all my other characters. And then maybe I could put that jewel on another mount that, you know, I really like the mount style, but it doesn't have any kind of stat bonuses like this one. This is the Bookworm mount. This is from the Forbidden Library Gauntlet, and I love this mount. This mount looks cool. You know, it looks pretty sick. I would love to use it because I'm getting tired of riding. I want to give my Mammoth Mini a break, and it would be cool to use this mount and have a little bit of a stat bonus for that, right? That's what, in my head, I hope happens. But I know it won't, because I know KI is going to make this very, very convoluted as possible. But it would be cool to see that happen, or at least get a mount transmog system in the game, or something like that. Because again, there are a lot of gorgeous mounts out there in the game, and a lot of people just want to use them. So we'll see what happens in Test Realm and when we get more details about it. But if I'm just being honest, just take all this information with a grain of salt, because again, when it comes to these updates, they usually launch, and you know, a lot of people just don't expect it to launch like that. So, you know, just take it with a grain of salt. I'd rather wait until the update actually gets here. We actually don't even know when this is going to come out. I have no idea, but we'll see what happens. But until then, let me know what you guys think about jeweled mounts. And until then, peace out.